Let's get straight from Twickenham here to the Stade de France, where we've got France against New Zealand, one of the great matchups in world rugby. Paul Grayson and Sarah Orchard.
Thanks ever so much, Sonia. What a test match it has been. You join us as we go straight to the haka now between France and New Zealand as the All Blacks, dressed in white, prepare to face the French team at the Stade de France. You are listening to 5 Live Sport from the BBC as the New Zealand All Blacks perform the haka at the Stade de France, as the French team now go into a huddle as they get ready for this Autumn Nations Series match. My name is Sarah Orchard. Alongside me, delighted to say, I'm joined by 2003 World Cup winner Paul Grayson to watch this one. And we've had a lot of amazing contests so far in this Autumn Nations Series. But when it comes to France against New Zealand, we're reigniting a rivalry that has seen France have the better of the All Blacks in the last 2 times they've played them. And they're in front of their home crowd tonight.
Yeah, they are, and they'll still be hurting from the World Cup, the home World Cup, which was a magnificent celebration of our sport. France, everyone's heart said France were going to win it. They couldn't get it done. They've got the best player in the world. He just popped off and won himself an Olympic gold medal. France versus the All Blacks, always special, not one to miss.
It really is. I'll run you through the 2 lineups as we get underway, but the big headline this week, we've already mentioned Antoine Dupont just once there in our first exchange between myself and Paul Grayson. He's going to come up a lot, but he actually missed training earlier this week. That was because he had a bit of illness, and sort of panic, of course, went around the whole of the French public, as it does when anything happens to Antoine Dupont. But he's absolutely fine. He's been past fit to play this evening. He will captain the side, but we should also mention it'll be a special night also this evening for Patrick Tuipulotu. He led out the All Blacks side. It's his 50th cap this evening. I mean, he had a real tough start to his international career. After he made his debut, he ended up having double hip surgery the year afterwards. So it's taken him a while now to get to 50 caps, just the 10 years, but he has made it. He's on the bench this evening. It's a special moment when he comes out onto the field. Right then, it is going to be France that get us underway this evening. Our referee in the middle is Nika Amashikeli of Georgia. He'll be supported by the television match official of Marius Jonker of South Africa. And bouncing the ball away on the spot this evening is Thomas Ramos. Now, he flits between fly half and fullback. There's another little bit of a subplot when it comes to the French team about the fly half position that will get you through once this match is underway. But we are about to start here on 5 Live Sport. It's France against New Zealand in the Autumn Nations Series, the final match of the day, and it is Thomas Ramos who gets us underway. He pushes his team backwards. There's the blast of the whistle, and we're underway then. It's France travelling from left to right then in this first half. All Blacks, who are wearing white this evening, push the ball back down the far end of the field. They're travelling from right to left. We get to see Romain Boros on the ball, who's playing at full-back this evening. A debut for him, and what a debut against the All Blacks, as France now have the ball on the halfway line. Le Petit Général, Antoine Dupont, pops off the ball, this time to Mi Boufal, who uses all of his bulk to burst through the centre of the park. This time on the ball, it's Aldrit, always been able to spot by his scrum cap. More big men decide to power on, and this is how France traditionally play their rugby. This is classic French play. Tatafu now on the ball. Ramos with the little chip over into the 22. Gabin Villiers was supported this time by Biel Barry, but Villiers is there once again. Dupont, he arrives, looks for more forward power to fly through, this time through Flamand, 10 metres out from the line. This time we see Gabin Villiers on the ball once again. We've got two wings, both in red scrum caps, making themselves known, and neither of them sort of hanging out in position, happy to go and look for heavy work already. A minute played, 0-0, but France 5 metres from the line, they drop the ball. It's advantage then to New Zealand, who'll have an opportunity to clear. That was a good set by France, bar the one error right at the end.
Right at the very end, there's so much content in that from France. It was a wobbly old start to the game from Ramos. Barrett kept the ball in the field, and then Boros, the debutant at fullback, didn't need asking twice to counter-attack, and then France moved through, getting on for a dozen phases. Some excellent handling through the forwards. Maofu, I beg your pardon, the second row, getting his arms free. They piled through the middle, and for all money you thought they were going to score down the left-hand side, then just one knock-on at the end, but pulling some nice shapes, a lovely chip over the top as the All Blacks tried to wedge in and cut off the French attack.
Just saw a gorgeous little bit of play there by the wing, Biel Barry, early on. He flew into the air to take the ball as it was just flying over his head to go out of play. He managed to lift himself up, grab the ball and pop it back down to his team before he went out of play. Now they're just testing the leg at the moment of the tight head prop Tatafu, because he took a bit of a tumble. We can see Georges-Henri Collomb at the moment on the side of the field, just deciding if he's going to come on. I mean, this would be a big ask for Collomb if he does have to actually make a change here. But we've also got a head injury assessments going on to one of the New Zealand players as well. So we're just waiting for confirmation about why he's coming off the field of play at the moment. Once that's confirmed, but it looks like on his way off is Samipeni Finau of the Chiefs, and in his place is Peter Lakai of the Hurricanes. Now there's a lot of changes going on early on. It means someone's going to be very tired.
Well, and that just, it removes the one option of a tactical change for either head coach. I can't quite see whether the French replacement was made. But all that scenario planning, all the notes in your book to say if this, then that, you don't want to do it after 1 minute and 50.
No, and it's France 0, New Zealand 0. At the moment, for now, we can see that Tatafu is still on the field of play, and he's about to pack down now. So this is a New Zealand scrum, 10 metres out from the All Blacks line. They need to clear their lines after early pressure from France in the opening phases of play. If you're just joining us here on 5 Live, we've recently left Twickenham, where England suffered their 3rd defeat of the Autumn Nations series, going down 29 points to 20 to South Africa, as the ball is pumped a long way down the field there by New Zealand. As we keep an eye on Boros there, the debutant, who goes off the field of players. We just see the replays. What happened to Tatafu? Yeah,
we just caught the replay. Tatafu fumbled the ball. That was where the knock-on came. But Finau continued with the tackle, got his head in the wrong place, caught a knee. So he'll be having at least an HIA.
Yeah, he looked quite wobbly as he went off, and he was being supported by 2 medics, so he's being checked now as New Zealand managed to snaffle a French line out, and we get to see for the first time an All Blacks attack. So they've got the ball 10 metres inside of French territory, still 0-0 with 3 minutes played, as we get to see Cam Roigard coming in. Roigard been given the starting scrum half shirt for the first time in this Autumn Nations series, gathers the ball. It's been in the possession so far of Cortez Ratima, but he's down on the bench now on this occasion. Popped off ball down the line, not as clean from the All Blacks as they would like, and the French pounce on it. Dupont has it, looks for options, eventually decides to give it to Ramos. I mean, this is tight play. Ficou now pushes forward. He thinks he can see a hole as the most capped French player out on the field, as it comes back down the line now, knocked on by Aldrit, and the All Blacks have it back inside of their own half. Roigard tries to hack it away, but there's a big French player in his way, and it comes straight back on his side. We get to see a Barrett brother on the ball now. It's in the form of Geordie. And there's all sorts going on over the ball. The referee doesn't like it. It will be a penalty for New Zealand.
Yeah, 2 back rows linking up there. Ruma
and on the ball.
And Aldrit in midfield, Rumat threw a pass, a nice flat ball. Aldrit was into space, but it was just behind him. He knocked it on. Quite frantic from both teams early on. Everybody keen to run with the ball, which is a great sign. Antoine Dupont did what he normally does and just made time stand still for a moment or two before he made his mind up. Gael Fickou nearly got away. Enterprising stuff, though, from both teams.
OK, as New Zealand get ready for this line at 10 metres inside, let's run you through that New Zealand line. At 15, it's Will Jordan. On the wings, we've got Sevu Reece, who's coming in, and then Caleb Clark, he holds on to that 11 shirt. In the centres, it's Geordie Barrett and Rico Ioane as the ball just goes down to the floor. Beauden Barrett and Cam Roygaard, they're promoted to starting shirts, as there's a knock on infield there by New Zealand. A little bit of afters as well, but they'll get back to their feet and they'll restart with a French scrum. In the New Zealand forwards, it's Tamati Williams, Cody Taylor and Tyrrell Lomax. Taylor returning after he missed the Ireland game as well. And then Tupu Vai, he's going to be in there, but he was meant to be alongside Finau, who's had to go off the field. So in there already is Lackey, and that means he's alongside Ardie Savea wearing 7 and Wallace Satiti at 8. On the bench, we've got Amua, Tangafasi, Tosi, Tuipulotu, Ratima, Leonard Brown and Mackenzie. As for France, as they just get this scrum ready, the debutant Romain Buros is at 15, Gabin Villiers on one wing, Louis Biel Barry on the other, Gael Fickou and Yoram Mofana in the centres. The front row made up of Jean-Baptiste Gros, Piato Movaka, Tavita Tatafu, who is on the field, Thibault Flamand, Emmanuel Mefo, Paul Bourdon, Alexandre Romat and Gregory Aldrit. On the bench there, Marchand, Vardy, Coulomb, Tafi Feneur, Gilliard, Olivon, Lagarec and also Gaetan. Right then, 5 minutes on the clock, penalty to France on the halfway line. That will be a feather in the cap. France 0, New Zealand 0, and the crowd loved it.
Yeah, they did. France's first put in. New Zealand's clearing kick from their scrum. The scrum was very stable, but they got the ball out really quick. Always when it's your feed, you've got the opportunity then to flex your muscles and put some pressure on. As an 8, France do that straight away. New Zealand to ground on the tight head side immediately.
Okay, minutes next time. Yeah, minutes next time, I think on the hit.
And Thomas Ramos is feeling it because he has decided that he is going to kick at goal. This is bang on the halfway line. He has kicked these before, but you've got to make sure that you're definitely feeling and you brought your kicking boots along this evening. Thomas Ramos lines it up, right boot, he's given it a huge amount of welly, and that is through. Great kick by Ramos, puts France in the lead here on 5 Live. It's France 3, New Zealand 0.
He wasn't hanging around there, Sarah. Put the ball on the tee, walked back, quick look, jogged into it, smashed it. That is, that's throw the ball on the tee and just belt it down the middle, don't even think twice.
Well, Ramos got 12 points last week when France thumped Japan 52 points to 12. He's picking up where he left off. Now, the slight bit of drama in the French camp this week has been the fact that Mathieu Jalibert has absolutely nothing to do with this squad this week. It was highly expected that he would be on the bench, but apparently he turned round to the head coach Fabien Galtier and asked to go back to his club this week. And if you believe the stories, it is to do with the fact that he believes he should be the starting fly half for France and Ramos should be at fullback. We'll discuss that with Paul Grayson in a second about how that will continue in the Jalibert career when you make those kind of calls about yourself and what you think the team should be doing. As it's spun out wide here, nice into the hands of Savea as he tries to bulldoze over the top of Ramos, who rode that quite well, but that's going to hurt in the morning. France 3, New Zealand 0, and it's now New Zealand are approaching the French 10-metre line. We've got a penalty advantage also now to New Zealand as they keep travelling forward, working through the phases. This is where they're dangerous. If you watch that match against Ireland, they can come at this some if they really want to. Lovely pass there, and that came from the prop Tamati Williams as well. Still flying forward, pass out once again to Savea, who's hanging out on the left wing. The pass came in from Caleb Clark, and Savea's still going, and now it's the replacement who goes over to score in the form of Peter Lakai. We said they were dangerous. They proved it. What a try by the All Blacks. It's now France 3, New Zealand 5.
And it all came from Gabin Villiers going for an interception when the ball went over the top. Savea got it, wearing number 7, playing on the left wing at the moment. Strong carries. Yeah, Villiers went one-handed, was never going to get it. Savea got away. And then it was just New Zealand keeping the ball alive. As you said, Sarah, running some good shapes in attack. Then Will Jordan running off Cody Taylor, gets his arms free and the offload away. Ball flicked over the top. and eventually given by Caleb Clark to Surveyor again on the left wing. Bumps through 4, 5 French defenders and gets his arms free. Peter Lacaille grabs it off him, sandwiched by 2 Frenchmen, but he's already over the line. Fantastic score.
Well, it's Beauden Barrett who's lining up this conversion, 15 metres out from the left-hand touch. He had about 1 second left. You were nervous then, Paul Grayson. It went through, but you weren't convinced with the execution.
It didn't go through by much, did it? It looked like it skimmed just inside the left post as we get a TV replay of the thunderous run from Surveyor, just skittling people left and right, and then the soft skills at the end of it.
Time is off.
Shot clock makes a difference though, doesn't it?
It really does, makes that little bit more drama, and that's what they want in rugby union. But it looks like that early injury to Tavita Tatafu has caused him too much trouble, and with only 10 minutes on the clock, that is it then, as we get to see Georges-Henri Colombe come onto the field, the 142 kg tight head. He comes on, and he has got a long way to travel. 70 minutes in a tight head shirt is not easy.
What, did you say 142 kegs?
Yeah.
Nothing's easy at that weight. I mean, that is a massive human being. He can scrum, but you're right, those last 15 minutes was going to bite a little bit.
And we're keeping a close eye on how he goes. Right, the La Rochelle man is on as Ramos of Toulouse gets us back underway then. So France 3, New Zealand 7. 10 minutes played at the Stade de France as the ball goes down to the floor through Rico Ioane. I mean, he made a few headlines last week, didn't he? I do believe his social media post after the end of their victory against Ireland said, put that in your book. But as he goes into contact, he's given away a penalty, and there's a bit of afters here. The referee will have a word with the New Zealand players. Just one moment. He's now walking back over and having a word with Barrett. Let's listen in.
He was holding on. Players after the whistle must release the ball, okay?
Holding penalty.
It was a good restart from Ramos. He got some good height, and Biel Barry got in, made a decent tackle.
Thank you very much.
France made a mess of the breakdown, and then New Zealand, once the whistle had gone, wouldn't release the ball. So a little bit of argy-bargy, and then in the middle of it, once France had got the ball, somebody threw it at Scott Barrett's head, I think, which is extremely childish but quite amusing.
Also quite brave. I wouldn't do it. And I tell you what's another brave decision. France haven't even thought about the post. They've gone straight to go for the line out. They fly into the air. It's taken this time by Roumat, and they're going to try and maul their way to the line. This is a manoeuvre that France have executed so well in recent years, but stolen by New Zealand, who said in the week they've been working on it, and boy they have, because they thumped that ball away. It's gone all the way halfway down the field. Did it get the bounce of the ball? Yes, it's all good. It's going to be a new France line out down the halfway, so any sort of pressure that France thought they could put on there lost as a big New Zealand mitt managed to get their hands on the ball.
Yeah, just as the maul started to move forward for France, it splintered a little bit. An arm got in there and knocked it down.
Oh, France do manage to get the ball back, but they've got a long way to travel here. This time going through the hands. Bourderon down on the floor. Dupont looks from side to side. This time it's in the hands of Jean-Baptiste Gros, the loose head, and it's going to be a penalty to New Zealand. And they will clear their lines. It's pretty tense and physical out there at the moment.
Yeah, it is, and I think the referee's doing a good job in the breakdown. He's given New Zealand the opportunity there to cleanly win the ball. He's given them a couple of seconds to wrestle it free. He knows the value, the referee, as we all do, of turnover ball. If you can pinch it and play, it's the best attacking opportunities you've got. Completely unstructured defence. So he's given him a chance to win it, and then when they couldn't get it, wrestle it free, he's blown his whistle and given the penalty.
Okay, ball going to come in then from Cody Taylor. Made his debut back in 2015, the Crusaders man, as he stands up today to win his 95th cap. If he goes for the century, it will be next year. Only one more test for the All Blacks on this tour as they pass out towards the near side. Caleb Clark has it. He places it backwards. France in a bit of a pickle all over again, as once again New Zealand, they're into the French 22. And when they start running with the ball, it's like watching birds in flight. There are options on either side every time. New Zealand on the board. Roy Gard is there. No scrum half. Clark comes in to offer himself up for duties. This time it's Wallace Satiti, a real man who's made his name this year Everyone has been talking about the ability of the young man, just 22 years old, on his 9th cap today, as he takes it on once again. 2 carries within the space of a minute. How quick he is back to his feet and showing off what he can do. Still New Zealand ball. They don't get over the gain line on that occasion as France go in over the top. That was a really messy ruck, but New Zealand have held it.
You pulled away there.
No penalties given away. Discipline so far so good by the French. Surveyor. How many times we mentioned that name? He's been hanging out a bit on the left wing. Made good ground. This time he has to go through the guts of the park. The current reigning World Player of the Year is Surveyor. Next weekend we'll know who the 2024 version is. Nominations expected to be announced shortly as the penalty is given away, and it's given away by New Zealand. France will clear.
Muscular stuff from the Kiwis, just using their forward pods. An occasional tip pass outside or inside to try and isolate a defender, but France staying disciplined, well drilled in defence, waiting their moment for the turnover. Satiti got slightly lost, tried to pick and go through the middle. There was no gap, and then Colomb, the replacement prop, I think it was, got his hands on the ball. But I like the way New Zealand's attack is evolving. Sarah, they started to move the ball a lot better than they have in the first 2 games. Albeit they're unbeaten, they haven't been anywhere near their brilliant best, but you can see it coming, Scott Robertson stamp coming.
You really can. Right then, France line out. Mo Vaca doesn't find his man. It's New Zealand ball back on the halfway. Satiti comes once again. He's wearing 8 now. He wore 8 against Japan.
No, not con.
He's been playing a bit of 6 as well. Him and sort of Severa, I think, are going to be dancing around the back row while they're both still playing, but not releasing the tackle player after. So New Zealand get another opportunity here, and this is where it's getting a little bit scrappy from both sides.
Yeah, a couple of decent phases, and then that's the decision making within that collision. France just about win the contact, resisting the temptation then to stay on the ball when you think you've got rights to it. Don't forget, this is all happening at high speed. These are massive collisions that the players are going into, and you're asking into. It's hard enough for us to decipher what a good decision and a bad decision is sometimes. So right in the middle of there, you can't criticise them for getting it wrong every now and again.
France 3, New Zealand 7, 15 minutes on the clock.
Blimey, we've just seen a replay. That's a tough one.
Ball coming in by Cody Taylor once again.
More.
Listening to us on 5 Live, also of course the Automation Series across BBC Sounds. Every Home Nations match is available to you. Sounds also the place to go if you want to get across that match between Wales and Australia tomorrow. That will also be on 5 Sports Extra. The pressure raining down right now on Warren Gatland. More on that later as we see New Zealand 10 metres away now from the French line. But straight away, New Zealand off their feet, and France have the ball back. Neither side is able to hold on to their ball at the moment.
That was a superb tackle. Pietro Mo Vaca on Geordie Barrett, absolutely chopped him down, knee height, as Ramos goes quickly and belts it down the middle of the pitch.
Oh, has he overcooked this? It's bouncing over the try line yet, still going. Oh, and it's going to go all the way over now. Dupont was chasing. They're going to check this and see if this is a try, because New Zealand were waiting for it to go over the dead ball line at the back. Dupont was there. He was flying. Does he? No, he doesn't. It was almost fantastic. Okay, Will Jordan has touched it down. We will be calm for a moment. Let's go and check in on the cricket with no score change. It's West Indies, England, 4th T20 in St Lucia. Kevin Howes is watching.
Remember, England won the series. They haven't batted first yet so far, and they're doing that tonight. So a different sort of set for them tonight. They've got to try and put together a decent target and going along really nicely. The only wicket to have fallen is that of Will Jackson. Another so-so score for him of making 25 off 12 balls, but Phil Salt hammering it away, 44 off 26. He's been joined by Butler. England in the 7th over is 75 for 1.
Thanks ever so much, Kevin. Right then, we're focusing this evening on 5 Live Sport and France against New Zealand. It is France 3, New Zealand 7, 17 minutes on the clock. France nearly thought they had absolutely pickpocketed the team from New Zealand, but it is once again the All Blacks flying down the field. Sevu Reece just getting boot to ball. The foot race is on. There's a Barrett chasing, can't quite get to Villiers, nearly was. And there's a little bit of footwork by Biel Barry in the middle of the field to try and push forward over the 22-metre line. Both sides trying to show off whenever they can. And I tell you, it's quite the show for now. Right, then comes back Ramos then, right boot, down the middle of the field. He's not looking at all for the edges of the field. He's just trying to push New Zealand as far back every time as he can, as we now see Will Jordan coming in on full flight. A young man, still 26 years old, who's made a huge name for himself for his try-scoring prowess. Now the big thumping tackle goes in there on the New Zealand players as we get to see Ioane now drive forward. Support coming in by Surveyor, 5 metres out from the near side. Still New Zealand ball. Oh, right through the middle goes to Marty Williams. Tries stopping that bulldozer. Eventually the French managed to scrag him, and they steal the ball on the floor, this time by Pieter Movaca. I mean, anyone who's bought a ticket inside of the Stade de France is getting their money's worth as France win a penalty. This is harem-scarum stuff.
Of the highest quality. I mean, Ramos's kick from the quick tap penalty that Dupont chased for 80 yards and nearly won the race. We almost had a Clement Platrenaud, Rob Howley moment from those who can remember the Heineken Cup win for Wasps, as he almost managed to dot the ball down. Since then, it seems like we've had enough rugby content for 10 more minutes. It's a magnificently open game, though, and the soundtrack of the French crowd is just sensational.
Yeah, we're going back a good 20 years for that moment, and
it was a while ago.
It was a while ago. This is where we need the sports quiz machine. That is our rugby union correspondent Chris Jones. He'll give you the time that happened as well during the match.
Check your phone if he's listening. He will text.
He will. He may be in the tunnel somewhere in Twickenham or recording a podcast, of which I should tell you, get on BBC Sounds tomorrow morning. We will have an On the Whistle podcast after England lost to South Africa. It will be available for you. But at the moment we're focusing on France against New Zealand. It's France 3, New Zealand 7. Nearly 20 minutes played now as a little chip comes in by Dupont to Biel Barry, who chips through himself. Can't quite get the execution, goes out of play. Will restart with a New Zealand line out inside of their own 22.
Just fantastic stuff. I mean, Dupont there, kick pass, absolutely deft touch. Biel Barry is really good at dribbling the ball in behind and winning the foot race. Will Jordan just cut him off. Just the excitement at every turn here.
Well, as Paul Grayson has just pointed out, it actually came off the shin of Will Jordan there. So France have the line out. They're on their own 15-metre line. And this is short numbers in the line out. And they've had a little bit of fun and games there. It was knocked on by France initially. And it will be a scrum then to New Zealand, 15 metres out.
Under pressure in the line out, France. That's twice they've been picked off. They've had to go over the back to Rouma to win the ball. The All Blacks are quick on their feet, managing to get both their second rows up, causing trouble. Movaca's got to thread the eye of a needle almost to get the ball to his jumpers.
Well, just a reminder then that France have won their last two against the All Blacks, 2021 and 2023. That match last year was the opening match of the Rugby World Cup, the very first game. So they've got two in their back pocket against them, but the last time they managed 3 in a row was back in the era of 94-95, so it's been a while. And that opening match of the World Cup finished 27-13. It was quite a match between the two, but you have to say it was a convincing win by the French. But these are two sides who have evolved since that moment a year ago, as they both pack down now inside of the New Zealand half on the 22-metre line. Ball comes in by Roygaard, the 23-year-old. It's popped up in the middle. The referee is playing this on with both front rows high in the air. Roygaard eventually comes in. I mean, the referee there, Amish Kelly, didn't look like he was going to make a decision at all. He's just saying it's wheeled.
I like that, because New Zealand went for a double push and they didn't move forward. And then when the pressure eventually got too much, they went up exactly the same time as France. I think it's a good Georgian view of a scrum.
Same with you. Don't push upwards, stay flat. Stay flat, don't push up. Yeah, we went
there you go,
up.
you'd think I played the front row.
Let's go again, reset.
Did you ever have a go?
I think once in a game of sevens, got kicked in the shin, collapsed it. Never again.
Never again. I think I was once allowed on the flank. Never again, that was bad enough. France 3, New Zealand 7, 22 minutes on the clock here on 5 Live Sports. What a weekend of rugby. Of course, on Friday night, Ireland, they just beat Argentina 22 points to 19 to finally get a win after their disappointment against the All Blacks last week. Earlier today, 9 tries for Scotland against Portugal in their 59-21 win. And then, of course, England losing to South Africa 29 points to 20. Big penalty this time. The referee does make a decision at the scrum. It's gone New Zealand's way. So France are having a few set-piece problems at the moment.
Yeah, losing the line out and losing it ahead, so it goes to a scrum.
If the scrum Wales. I can't if the scrum
New
Wales.
Zealand painting the same picture twice. Williams and Taylor really going after Colombe.
Well, straight away, New Zealand decide to put boot to ball, send it down the far end of the field, and they set themselves up for another line-out. So I think they'll be opting for as much set piece as they physically can, the way that this fixture is going. But they've only got the 4-point lead for the time being, as Cody Taylor has the ball over his head. The 33-year-old finds his man and it comes down. The New Zealand backs fan out towards the halfway line and try and fly their way forward. Roygaard arrives as he continues his battle with that 9 shirt at the moment with Cortez Ratimer, as Wallace Satiti, he powers through, manages to bounce off a few blue shirts. And it's still once again in New Zealand hands as they go over the halfway. So they've lost a little bit of territory there, but not too much. Surveyor now, there's 2 Frenchmen on him. They're trying to hold him up at the moment. Eventually Surveyor manages to get a knee down. And you just heard the referee warning there that France had to treat it as a tackle and release him to go down to the floor. And so far, this is good defence from France. They just need to be careful. They created that little dog leg a bit earlier that allowed that New Zealand try-in. It's down on the ground still, and New Zealand going backwards for the time being. Have they created space? A little bit of a dummy comes in by Surveyor, who continues to hang out on the left wing, almost on his own at times. It's now loose at the back. Roygaard's seen enough. He knows he can't go anywhere. He hacks it through. Oh, that's a really nice kick by Roygaard as he pushes France back inside of their 22. They were going nowhere, and the number 9 makes a good choice.
It's nice to see Will Jordan getting himself in the game from fullback. The criticism of him a little bit as an out-and-out line runner. The All Blacks constantly going between Barrett and McKenzie, not quite sure how to find the right blend, but 2 or 3 times Will Jordan stepped in at first receiver or had it as second carrier out the back, gone to the line and moved the ball on. No surprise, their attack's starting to look good.
France 3, New Zealand 7, and relief that they do manage to win a line out as Mo Waka picks it up once again. Champions Cup winner, of course, with Toulouse. It is gone forward there off a New Zealand hand. We'll restart then with a French scrum, as there's a player down on the floor there. And it is Antoine Dupont, actually, who's just slowly making his way back to his feet. I think he's okay, but he took a bit of a wallop there. And whenever he is down, we will now have cameras all around the stadium trained in just on him. He's just holding on to his ribs ever so slightly there. He did get quite a wallop.
Yeah, he's extremely tough, very robust player. As we see, Piata Movaka broke away from the back of that maul. He's got feet like a centre, the hooker, and then Villiers had the ball stripped by Roygaard, which was a knock on. And then can't quite see where Dupont got a whack.
It was he got involved in a little bit in the side of him, and his leg was lifted.
I'm not sure whether that's after the whistle.
Well, there's a lot going on the field of play. We've also got Geordie Barrett down on the floor at the moment as well. So whilst they try and sort all of this out, I don't think you can just hear Scott Barrett, who's talking to the referee here. So I don't think they're going to look too much at anything that's happened with Dupont. So we're just going to turn the referee down a touch. As I actually discussed with you, as Dupont looks okay to continue, what you made of the Mathieu Jalibert situation with France this week, of him turning around and asking Fabien Galtier, when he wasn't going to be starting in the 10 shirt for France, if he could go back to his club this week. And Galtier did, off the back of this, say, look, if he wishes, he can still be a part of this French team. But that's a big call for a player.
Yeah, it is. It is. We've seen players walk away before when they think they're getting the thin end of the wedge in selection. Other players preferred to you. Jalibert's obviously he's obviously reached that point where he'd rather be back playing every week than sitting for 65, 70 minutes, or maybe not even getting on. It's a bold one. I don't know whether he actually fell out with Galtier, or Galtier said, fine, do what you like, play your way back in when you're available again. But
Okay, let's
Fair play.
reset.
They're resetting a scrum at the moment, so don't worry, you're not missing any rugby at all. It's still France 3, New Zealand 7. I mean, just on that, I mean, Thomas Ramos, he can play at 10 or he can play at 15. He plays very well at either, so I don't think it's too much of a complaint now.
And he plays at Toulouse, and the interchanges between 10 and 15 and plays with Dupont. There's plenty of justification to say why he should be playing. Jalibert was sensational for France in the absence of Romain Ntamack at the World Cup, and clearly he feels hard done by. And actually, I quite like it. Players should have an opinion. You don't just have to toe the line. He's going to go and show what he's got for his club, support his club team, and you know, if he gets back in, it'll be because he's the number one choice.
You are allowed a personality and an opinion in professional sport as the ball comes away. Oh, it's been stolen by Roygaard as it bobbled away. France good in control. Roygaard will score. He just touches it down. He almost left it a bit late there. So the ball bubbled out of the scrum. France had gone to sleep. Roygaard pounced. And that is a second try now for New Zealand, who lead 12 points to 3 against France with a conversion to come.
Oh, as the ball went out of the back, we know France are under a little bit of pressure. The scrum spun. Aldry picked the ball up brilliantly, the number 8, got his right arm free and tried to offload to Antoine Dupont. Roygaard just went to bat the ball down, didn't quite catch it, ended up in his breadbasket. Good spoiling from the number 9, great opportunist try.
Cam Roygaard will absolutely be delighted with that effort as Barrett adds the extras as well. So this is beginning to get a little bit of a difficult scoreline then for France rugby fans. France 3, New Zealand 14. Not quite half an hour played yet. Of course, France had that warm-up match against Japan. Beat them convincingly 52 points to 12. But haven't quite found their feet yet in this fixture against the All Blacks.
No, Gregory Aldry, hands on his head, knows he's made a mistake there. Cam Roygaard getting his start. He is a live wire. He'll be absolutely pumped to play against the best player in the world, Antoine Dupont. He's showing brilliantly so far.
Right then, All Blacks ball. How much more damage can they cause in 10 minutes? Reminder that tomorrow on 5 Live Sport, you've got commentary coming your way live from Wembley between England and Ireland in the Nations League. John Murray and Dennis, Clinton Morrison, Matt Upson. The ball is now down on the floor at the Stade de France. It's France ball as they make their way over into the New Zealand 22. Comes back down the line, big spun ball. Wasn't quite executed well. Fiku was calling for it, but there was too many massive All Blacks players to put their hands up and stop it.
Good again from Boros, a fullback. He really does carry the ball back with enthusiasm. He's not frightened of trying to drive himself into that the All Blacks defensive line to get him on the front foot. And then a fantastic carry from Boudon, the number 6.
I don't want you to be screaming. If it's clear one, I'm just trying to tell you. No, you don't have to.
There is so much chatter going into the referee's ear at the moment. I'm surprised he's put up with so much of it as he has so far. It's Nick Ramashukeli, who's our Georgian referee. Been on the scene for a few years as we just watch a replay of the knock-on by Will Jordan. And I think they did actually just go in and check with the television match officials that it was knocked on by Jordan. Ramos is still frustrated, but this still is a lovely position if France can just hold on to the ball here at the scrum, because let's face it, this set piece has not been good. Yeah,
those intercepts are on New Zealand pressing high on the outside, so the floated ball over the top is the way to solve the puzzle. We saw it work when New Zealand went over the top of Villiers and Ardie Savea made the break. There have been 2 intercepts from, I say one clean intercept and then nearly another one there from Will Jordan as France tried to do the same thing. Here's a risky tactic, as we know, with sin bins for deliberate knock-ons if you don't quite try and get it, but makes it exciting on the edges.
Okay, don't worry. He's just going to reset this scrum again as the front rows are told off for about the 5th time so far in this first half as Le Marseillaise sings out around the Stade de France one more time. Now, we talked a lot about the last time these two sides actually met inside the Stade de France, but the last time the All Blacks actually played in the stadium was the World Cup final that they lost to South Africa. So they are probably exercising some demons from the last few times they've played there.
Yeah, going into that tournament as one of the worst New Zealand teams to play the game in some quarters. They nearly won the whole thing.
And of course, that was under their former coach, Ian Foster. Since then, Scott Robertson brought in. In fact, it was pre-planned. They knew during the World Cup that would happen as France come away with the ball as quick as they can from that scrum. They did not want to get stuck there again. Big tackles raining in by the All Blacks. Can France do something before the break? 31 minutes on the clock. France 3, New Zealand 14. Still French ball. Ficou. He manages to take it on. Dupont looks up. Here comes Aldrit once again. Dupont with the distribution. This time we get to see Gros travelling forward. Still white shirts going over the top. Dupont went for the dummy. Wasn't perhaps one of his best sells as New Zealand sort of watched him sail by. Mifao now. All of him flies forward. So much weight on the body of that man to make the extra inches as more French forwards fly forward. Right then, 5 metres to go. France are grinding this one out. This time we get to see Gros on the ball. The phases continue by the French players. A try now would make a huge difference to them, to stop the All Blacks running away with this, to make this a big contest. And there's space there. Cut back inside there, and a try on debut for Romain Boros to put France back in the mix. France 8, New Zealand 14, conversion to come.
Some good close quarter carry in there, marshalled by Dupont, but his forwards just willing to get up and go again. Jean-Baptiste Gros, the loose head prop, carrying twice. And then the intent to clear out past the ball. They're not sealing it off. They're looking to make it quick. Dupont pulling the strings, and then when it's time to go, when you've got that bit of momentum, when you've bent the defence out of shape, somebody needs to be bold and let the ball go. They got the ball out to Boros, who still had 3 potential tacklers in attendance, stepped hard off his left foot. Characteristic strong running that we've already seen in open play. Scores just to the left of the post.
How brave is that on your debut to back yourself like that, to go for the line? That's gutsy.
Gimme.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Right then, Ramos with the extras, never in doubt. So we're down to a 4-point game then with 33 minutes on the clock. It's France 10, New Zealand 14 as the debutant Romain Boros of Bordeaux goes over. It means his inclusion actually means that Leo Barra's missed out. We were told earlier this week by Fabien Galtier that he fell short of standards last week on the field, so that's why he missed out as we wait for New Zealand to get this back underway. Let's quickly check in on the cricket, that 4th T20 between West Indies and England. Kevin Howes.
105 for 2 England after 10 overs they're put into bat. What a shame, just seeing the end of Phil Salt. So entertaining, 55 off 35 balls, 5 fours, 4 sixes. Terrific stuff, but he's out. He's just gloved to the keeper off the spin of Roston Chase. Butler is still there. 105 for 2 then in the 10th.
Thanks, Kevin. We'll keep you across that one as it happens. Of course, also head to the BBC Sport website for all the live sport going on right now. You can also get the match reports from all of the rugby that's already happened this weekend. There's live text going on from all the home nations games. France 10, New Zealand 14, 34 minutes on the clock at the Stade de France. 2003 World Cup winner with England, Paul Grayson, here with us on 5 Live Sport this evening as Satiti goes once again. Bit of footwork, bit of straightening by the young man as Roygaard, the scrum half, goes for a dart. He's already got a try and he's looking lively and dangerous out there. Geordie Barrett, who we haven't seen so much of in this Autumn Nations series yet, hasn't quite been at his sparkling best. Some argue he is the more spectacular of 3 very spectacular brothers, but hasn't quite shone yet as Caleb Clark tries to dance his way through 2 French blue shirts and is dragged down then on the French 22-metre line. Still New Zealand ball. Roygaard flying around. This time goes into the hands of Surveyor, wearing the unusual shirt of 7, but wearing it with aplomb. I think he could wear any number and we'd still be impressed. Left-hand side of the field. Here comes the Blues Clark, 28th cap for him today. 13 tries in an all-black shirt, looking for more as well as Tamati Williams, who had a lovely bust through the middle a little bit earlier, carries for a metre, and let's face it, every single one counts. But this time New Zealand pushed backwards as Barrett of the Geordie version has to straighten, but there is a penalty for France being offside. New Zealand think about taking it quickly through Satiti and then slow. And look at where they are on the field, because that's a pretty nice kick at goal.
Yeah, should they choose to go, which they do. Just a little flick from Barrett, 15 or so yards out. They fancy the left flank, don't they? They've moved the ball out there nicely. Caleb Clark running strong. They get Surveyor free on that wide outside, and he's uncompromising in the carry. Villiere's got his work cut out. Again, they go over the top. There's a definite size differential between Caleb Clark and Gavin Villiere.
I think they're rolling.
But they're comfortable in possession, aren't they, the All Blacks? Not making any mistakes, quite incisive.
Just slowing.
Beauden Barrett lining up the penalty just to calm things down straight away, straight through the posts, and once again New Zealand with a slightly more comfortable lead of 7 points. It is France 10, New Zealand 17, and I mentioned there about the Barrett brothers and who's arguably in better form. Of course, Geordie Barrett is going to be making his way to play for Leinster in the new year, which I think Irish rugby fans are very excited to see. And as I mentioned that name, it looks like Geordie Barrett is making his way off the field. He looks to be in some discomfort as he comes off as well. Not confirmation if that is for an HIA or not, as the ball just comes down in the field of play. Who do you think is the best of the Barrett brothers? Are you going to stick with your position?
Well, yeah, they all do different things, don't they? I think the biggest impact on the game in general is Beauden Barrett playing for the Hurricanes at fly half. Just seemed to move the needle a little bit. His siblings are catching him up, though.
Well, he's not a two-time World Player of the Year for nothing, is Beauden Barrett, and he's out there wearing 10 at the moment as his brother Geordie has had to take a sit down. We'll confirm you through the lineup of who's come on for the All Blacks in a moment, although I'm pretty sure Anton Leonard-Brown is out there somewhere. Right then, Dupont has it. 3 minutes to go until the half-time whistle. It is a French ball, and they trail by 7 here, having got back close to it as they go into contact. They're sealing off the
Same as them there.
off the top there.
Yeah, referee's hot on it. He gave one against New Zealand before. Keen to remind the players, Thibaut Flamand this time. He's a big man, but not supporting his own body weight, basically down on his hands and knees. New Zealand can't go for the ball. Keeping the breakdown nice and clean, the referee. I like his manner as well, how he's communicating with the players. He's not taking any grief, keeping the game moving on. And pretty consistent, I think, with his application of the law.
France 10, New Zealand 17. Really long pass over the top. Really enjoy watching that. It is Anton Leonard-Brown who flies into the middle of the field of play to take the ball on and forward. Satiti now has it. He gives it back. Comes in through Taylor now. He drops down to the turf. New Zealand on the ball between the 10 and the 22 down in the French half of the field. They've got less than 2 minutes now to try and make another dent on this scoreboard. Flying through goes Ioane now. Satiti offers himself up once again now. That was a real big double tackle going in on Satiti. The French players looked quite upright. You could hear the noise that came up from the crowd as Satiti went into contact. He appears to be okay and no problem with it either as play continues. Jordan goes into play scrum half, falls over his own feet as Roygaard gets back to his, having been involved at that last ruck. Into the hands now of Leonard-Brown. He's over into the 22, so finally making inches over the gain line. Nice work through the middle goes Roygaard. Has to pop it off that on that occasion to Lakai. He pushes back towards the middle of the field, slightly gliding towards the right-hand side, and big pressure coming in. Villiere is just one of those absolute nuisances. It doesn't matter where he is on the field, and it doesn't matter that he's playing as a wing. He just causes absolute problems for any team. It slows so much down. New Zealand still have it, but they are really being made to work there. It's there in the middle of the field, and they're trying to push towards the right now. Barrett thought there was going to be a little bit of a gap there in the French defence that he was trying to put the player through. Satiti goes once again. Oh, huge tackle going in on Satiti. Jean-Baptiste Gros, little bit of support for him as well, but New Zealand lose 10 metres in the process. I wonder if they'll look to put boot to ball in a second if they realise that they're just going from coast to coast. 12 phases.
Brilliant defence from France to keep them out.
Drop goal coming in by Barrett. They'd seen enough. That one's not the best executed, but the clock is gone.
First half.
And that will be it. France 10, New Zealand 17, Paul Grayson. And it's a lovely arm wrestle, but of the two, New Zealand just have it.
Yeah, and we don't get the stats, but I guess France's tackles made column will be bulging because they've been on defence for the second half of that opening period. Defended brilliantly, to be fair. The scoreline of France 10, New Zealand 17. But New Zealand asking questions. They've made a couple of line breaks from those short passes in between the forwards. They're happy to move the ball. They've started to get Will Jordan involved. Barrett, Bowden and Geordie working well together, albeit Geordie Barrett having gone off. But New Zealand, yes, looking dominant in possession and just ahead on the scoreboard.
2003 World Cup winner Paul Grayson here with us on 5 Live Sport. Half time then, it is France 10, New Zealand 17. We'll come back with the second half shortly. Let's check in with the cricket. We're keeping across West Indies against England in the 4th T20. Kevin Howes is watching.
And the tail, there's been quite a lot of runs being scored by England, 129 for 2. They're in the 13th over, but I think they might need every single one of them, to be honest with you, tonight. Bethel's on 5, Butler on 38 off 22 deliveries. Earlier we saw Phil Salt smash the ball all round, 55 off 35. Will Jacks made it 25, a so-so score for him, but Butler has just gone. The only shot from his repertoire which has not really come off for him tonight is the reverse, and again he has played it straight into the hands of a fielder. He's been caught, so it's now 3 downs. I say England will need every run they can get. Make that 129 for 3 now in the 13th over.
Thanks, Kevin. Well, what a day we've had of rugby here. It finished Scotland 59, Portugal 21, England 20, South Africa 29, and half-time at the Stade de France. That's what we're focusing on right now on 5 Live Sport. It is France 10, New Zealand 17. We'll be back for second half commentary soon, but first let's get the news on 5 Live with Fraser Dainton.
The voice of the UK.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
Thank you. Good evening. The BBC has been told there is a genuine impasse at the top of government over plans to reform social care in England. During the election, Labour pledged to introduce a national care service, but the Treasury is said to be deeply nervous about how much it will cost. The Prime Minister, Health Secretary and Chancellor are due to meet in the coming days to discuss the way forward. Amanda Pritchard is the Chief Executive of NHS England.
I don't think anyone is waiting for a plan, but it is really important that the time is taken to do the wide engagement so that we get the right plan for the government to support going forward.
Hundreds of farmers in a convoy of tractors, tankers and trucks held a demonstration outside the Welsh Labour conference earlier as Sir Keir Starmer delivered a speech. The farmers were protesting against changes to inheritance tax, which they say will have disastrous consequences for their industry. The Prime Minister insisted he'd defend the budget all day long. Our correspondent Damien Grammaticus was watching.
He was going to say it's about asking those with broader shoulders to contribute more. I noticed that was deleted from his speech, and that might be because those are the broader shoulders. That might have been seen as a bit, sort of gone down a bit badly with the farmers outside who'd say, well, we don't know the broader shoulders. We have a tough job and it's tough for us to make a profit in this business.
A murder investigation has been launched after a woman's body was found inside the boot of a car in East London. Police say the woman, who hasn't been named, was from Corby in Northamptonshire, and they were contacted earlier this week by someone concerned for her welfare, which led to the discovery in Ilford. And leaders of the G7 group of countries have described Russia as the sole obstacle to a just and lasting peace in Ukraine. They've issued a joint statement to mark nearly 1,000 days since the start of Moscow's full-scale invasion. President Zelensky says Ukraine must do all it can through diplomacy to end the war next year.
This weekend on BBC Radio 5 Live.
Tomorrow at 5, England take on Ireland in the Nations League, live from Wembley.
What a finish that was!
And on 5 Sports Extra at 4, Wales take on Australia in the Autumn Internationals.
BBC Radio 5 Live.
Listen on BBC Sounds. This is 5 Live Sport.
Listen on BBC Sounds.
Welcome back to 5 Live Sports. Second half commentary of France against New Zealand is still to come. It is the All Blacks who are up at the break, 17 points to 10. Earlier today, of course, England, they lost their third Autumn Nations match in a row, 29 points to 20. Their defeat to South Africa at Twickenham. All the reaction will come, of course, on the Rugby Union Weekly podcast later tonight on BBC Sounds. Of course, Scotland, they secured a 9-try win over Portugal. That one finishing 59 points to 21. But if we switch now from the over ball to the round ball, tomorrow, of course, we're going to be having commentary of England's Nations League match with Ireland from 5 p.m. tomorrow. That'll be on 5 Live and BBC Sounds. It's Lee Carsley's final match in charge as interim manager. Now, England captain Harry Kane, he made the headlines this week, didn't he, after he said he didn't like how many of the players had pulled out of the camp, saying England comes before any club situation. Here he is speaking to Ian Dennis.
You caused quite a stir the other day.
Yeah, it was, I don't know if there's no other news about, but no, it was, a bit surprising to see, how much it obviously got attention. But like I said in the press conference there, I think, I was asked a question about my opinion on just this squad and the camp, and, it was probably from my point of view just a reminder how special it is to play for England. And yeah, kind of more in the sense that I know after major tournaments sometimes these camps, even from just an importance point of view, sometimes don't get the attention. But we've got a chance to finish the year strong with England tomorrow, and I think all that momentum can then lead up until the March camp as well. So it was just a reminder that playing for England is really, really important.
Have you had any reaction from the players who were not here?
No, because I don't think they would have took it maybe how it was perceived. We have a really open relationship here as players. Everyone's very open in how they talk and their opinions, and that's how it should be. So if there's ever a problem with certain players or individuals that I had or the manager had or anything like that, we'd always talk to the players, and vice versa. If they had problems with me, they'd always come and talk to me. So I don't think there was any reaction from that point of view.
You're protecting the culture of the dressing room that certainly Gareth Southgate helped build up. What do you think Thomas Tuchel's approach to that culture will be for somebody who you know well?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we'll have conversations before that March camp, and he'll probably want to get to know what's worked well over the years, what have I felt that we've put in place to help us be successful. But then, of course, every manager has their own ideas and their own things they might want to bring in, or certain rules they might want to set. So I guess we won't know that until March. But I think Thomas brings great experience, especially in tournaments, and he will know what kind of gets the players ticking. He'll know what motivates them. So I think he'll use all that experience to, just continue on from the culture that we've set, and just add another layer to it, I guess.
Now, the other night, that was a must-win game for England, and it was a bit of a gamble and a bold call from the manager to leave out England's all-time leading goal scorer. What was your reaction to not starting?
Yeah, I mean, he told me that he wanted to start Ollie and wanted to give him that experience of, a big away game, a tough game. And look, I understood it. He said he only wanted to play me for one game this camp, and that's what he'd done in the previous camps as well. So I think he's been clear on giving players opportunities and giving some other players playing time, which I totally respect. Of course, I want to start every game and I want to help the team in every way. But my role the other night was to come off the bench and help see the game out, and obviously help win the game by a couple more goals. And we was able to do that. So as always, I'm ready for any situation. I'm ready to start tomorrow and hopefully make an impact from the start of the game.
Unusual though, because you've only been a substitute 3 times in the last 2 years for your country.
Yeah, I know, but like I say, every manager has their reasons and has their opinions and has their views on what they want to do. And like I said, I think Lee's been pretty clear on giving as many people opportunities as he can with the younger players as well. So look, it is what it is. I'm focused on tomorrow now, and coming off the back of a really good performance and really good game. It's down to me and the players who start tomorrow to continue that momentum, and then I'm sure some of the players will come from the bench to try and help the situation as well, and that's just the way it goes.
With Ollie Watkins in his form, is this probably the biggest challenge you've had for your England place for a while, would you say?
I'm not too sure. I feel like when I first come in, I had competition with obviously Rooney and Vardy, and then as well, and then kind of Welbeck and then Calvert-Lewin with the 21s Euros. So I think as an England striker, I'm always going to have competition for my place, and I think part and parcel of being consistent, and why I've been consistent is I don't take any training session or any game like I'm guaranteed to start. I train like, you know, I'm pushing to prove the manager that I should play, and I think that's been a big key to why I've been able to be so consistent. So nothing changes from my point of view. I train the same way, I play the same way, and you know, ultimately I'm here because of my form, and ultimately I'm here because, you know, I'm one of the top goal scorers in the world at the moment. So yeah, sometimes, you know, sometimes I feel like there's a perception that maybe I'm just here because I'm England captain, but it's not the case. I'm in the best form I've been in my career, so ultimately that's why I'm here and why I'm here to help the team as well.
And your numbers for Bayern are ridiculous. I'm just thinking with Thomas Tuchel, when he comes in, you know what his demands are and what he expects of a centre forward. Does that change at an international level?
I'm not too sure. I think even last year at Bayern, you know, Thomas knows a lot of my strengths. He was a big part of me going to Bayern Munich. He wanted me there, and yeah, he knows what I can do. He knows how I can finish. So yeah, I don't think there'll be much change in that sense. He'll have his formation, and obviously yet to know how he's going to want to play or how he sees this England team. But ultimately for me, you know, I've always been able to adapt to certain managers or different types of roles in the team. But yeah, mainly I'm going to be in the team to score goals, so that's obviously the number one job. But he knows obviously I can drop and link play, and I've done that a lot for him at Bayern last year. So yeah, it will just be a relationship that hopefully grows, and as we get to know each other more, we can help each other as well.
Because you've always set your own high standards, but you've always talked about longevity as well, haven't you, from an international point of view? I guess that hasn't changed.
No, for sure. It's like I said, I feel like I'm in the best. Well, I'm in the best form numbers wise in my career. So it's just to keep improving on that, keep pushing that. You know, it's been a good start to the season at Bayern as well, and we've got a lot of tough games coming up, but we're in a good place. And yeah, from now until, you know, the World Cup, there's going to be a lot of opportunities to play in big games and play in international games, and, you know, I'll hopefully be available for as many as possible, and just keep doing what I'm doing, and that'll lead hopefully into the World Cup in 18 or 19 months' time. And
finally, the importance of this game, just go and finish the job.
Yeah, we done a really hard part going away to Greece and winning 3-0 there, so that was, you know, check one, but now it's going to be a tough game against an Ireland team who I think will be highly motivated playing at Wembley, obviously coming off the back of us beating them at home as well. So it's going to be a tough game, but I feel like we know with our ability in the squad, and if we get it right, we should be able to win that game and finish the year well, because it's been a great year, a final of the European Championship. If we finish top of this group, and that sets up next year really nicely in terms of the World Cup qualifications and how the schedule lays out. So it's an important night tomorrow night.
Well, there you go, the England captain Harry Kane speaking to Ian Dennis earlier this week. Don't forget, of course, tomorrow on 5 Live we have commentary of that fixture of England against Ireland in that Nation League cash. It gets underway at 5 p.m. with John Murray, Ian Dennis, Clinton Morrison and Matt Upson, all live from Wembley. Worth mentioning also that earlier this evening in Group 4 of the Nations League, it finished Turkey 0, Wales 0, and there was a little bit of late drama in that one, with Turkey missing a penalty to win it on 89 minutes. There were also wins in the WSL for Brighton, Arsenal and Chelsea, and of course that win for Chelsea over Man City saw them top the Women's Super League table in the first meeting this season between the top till. So a little bit of a feather in the cap for the Blue in London. Right then, we're focusing this evening on 5 Live on everything rugby union. We're focusing on all matters Stade de France, and we've got a match going on between France and New Zealand. It is France 10, New Zealand 17. Earlier today it finished Scotland 59, Portugal 21, and England, they lost 29 points to 20 against South Africa at Twickenham. Paul Grayson, 2003 World Cup winner, is watching alongside me as we just wait for the teams to come back onto the field. But that match between England and South Africa, Paul Grayson, how much pressure is on England and Steve Borthwick, the England head coach right now, having not picked up a win yet in this Autumn Nations series?
It's always a tricky one, because narrow losses are losses. That's it. It's an L in that column, and it doesn't change the narrative. If England sneak last week They got themselves into position, clock's in the red, all they've got to do is hold out one pass to your player, they make a mistake, they lose. If they won that game, you can see enough in the way that they played that they're making progress. And the questions would have been like, well, you know, conceding 35 points at home against Australia, defence needs tightening up, etc, etc, but you've got a W and the margins are that fine. I thought we saw today that definite improvement, a physical intensity, actually taking the game to the Springboks, albeit we didn't win, but as Matt Dawson said off the back of the game, he said I was like excited to see England play because I can see progression. They are getting better, and they've just played the back-to-back World Cup winners who everybody in the world is currently frightened of playing against, and given a really, really good account of themselves.
It's a really good point. I think a lot of England fans who have watched them over recent seasons, when you watch England play right now, you are on the edge of your seat, which arguably in previous iterations of recent years has not been the case.
And completely, and you have to separate the two things. Yes, Steve is quite dry as a person with the media. Everything is well scripted, and he has his messages, and his delivery is not everybody's cup of tea. But have a look at what happened on the pitch today. There's some really good stuff, and some players who are growing.
And of course, don't forget, there is a Rugby Union Weekly podcast heading into your inboxes on BBC Sounds, being recorded at Twickenham right now, so you can get all the reaction from Twickenham. But we're going to turn our focus here on 5 Live Sport to the second half of France against New Zealand. It's France 10, New Zealand 17. In the second half, we've got France travelling from right to left, of course wearing their traditional navy blue jerseys and white shorts. New Zealand, the All Blacks, are being absolutely thumped backwards for their money. Huge tackles raining down there on Will Jordan as they travel from left to right, and they're wearing their white jerseys tonight. Of course, they try and avoid any kind of colour clashes that can confuse colour-blind people, and this is one of them with the dark blue. So New Zealand agreed that they would change into their white shirts tonight. It was a different way round on the opening match of the World Cup, when it was actually France who actually changed their shirts. But we're watching the white then of New Zealand on this occasion. Right then, France on the ball on the halfway line, and they've got a long way to travel to try and build something here as it goes into the hands of the debutant Buros, who manages to get it out wide to Gabin Villiers, who is just this absolute firecracker of a player who can just get himself in all kinds of trouble and create chaos wherever he goes. He's got this wonderful little moustache that always shows you he is up to mischief as well. As Ramos is on the ball then for the French. I'll run you through the lineups in a few moments' time as we wait for this first passage of play to complete. Into the hands then of the man who's going the distance in Georges-Henri Collomb. He had to come on after 10 minutes after injury to Tavita Tatafu. So he's got a big assignment coming up in this second half, and he's down on the ground at the moment, so that could cause a few problems. But it is France on the ball as they're flying forward, this time through Mifau. He's travelled at least 25 metres, and he's taking 3 All Blacks to bring him down to ground. Put that one in your scrapbook. That was a great run as Ramos now goes from side to side, shuffle, makes another couple of metres. Dupont is appealing for the penalty. He's not going to get it into the hands this time of Mofana. Mofana 2 metres short. Dupont is there, popped off really nicely. 1 metre left to travel for Roumat. They need to regather. Dupont's going to spin it out wide. The popped off ball, but it goes forward from an All Blacks player. It's a penalty for France. They will come back. New Zealand were offside, and I think even if that had been a knock-on, it would have come off the New Zealand player who was offside anyway, but they've stopped because we've still got the tight head down on the ground.
Good play from France there. Straight after half-time, we saw images from inside their changing room. Fabien Galtier in the huddle with the players laying down the law or the script for the second half as he saw it. They started well.
OK, we're just going to wait for this penalty and then we'll go and check in on the cricket because, oh no, they're going to go for the corner. All right, let's go and check in on Kevin Howes. He's watching West Indies against England in that 4th T20.
Reminder, I think England will need about 200 here. They're 164 for 4 at the moment in the 17th over. Young Jacob Bethel, a star in the making, 32 off 19. Curran is there with him at the moment. Lost Liam Livingstone out cheaply tonight for 4. England 164 for 4 in the 17th.
You come back to us as France drive for the line, from the line out. Surely that's over. The referee gives it, and France back in the mix. They've got an opportunity to level. They touch it down in the end, and it goes down that time through Paul Bourdon of La Rochelle. It is now France 15, New Zealand 17.
Well, they had to do something about the set piece. That will be most of the conversation at half-time, you would think. Sneaky little line out here. They go to the middle, but then shift the drive to shift the ball to the front. And then pile drive their way through. ended up going through New Zealand's half-backs, Roygaard and Barrett, the last two defenders, trying to stop them getting over the line. Clever play. They've shown what they can do in possession. They just couldn't win any in the first half. Scrum and line out under massive pressure.
Well, Thomas Ramos has got a little bit more work to do on this kick. He's 2 from 2 so far, so 100% off the tee. This one got a good 40 metres to travel. He's got a nice turn on the ball there. It looks good. The flags fly. So we are level pegging at the Stade de France. It is France 17, New Zealand 17. And after all the trouble that France were in that first half, they've tidied things up quick smart.
Yeah, but that's the perfect start. That's the conversation. Last thing, let's score next. Tidy up the set piece. Make your tackles. It was a brilliant tackle by tight head Colombe on Will Jordan that set the stall out and got him the ball.
Take quite a bit of pride from that as well, France, because their mauling, their shift drive is something that really has stood them apart in the last couple of seasons, and finally they've got it functioning and working. Right then, that one goes into the air. France have it. Dupont is in absolutely no rush whatsoever at the moment to get rid of this ball. Eventually goes for the box kick, and there is just this extra pressure at the moment on the scrum halves as they try and clear. Gathered on the near side, Roygaard comes in to gather it, recycles it, goes into the hands of Vai, the Auckland-born Chiefs player. Still going forward this time through Caleb Clark, who is just bulldozing through a number of French players and skittling them side to side. New Zealand ball then inside of French territory. Crossfield kick coming in from Barrett. He thinks there's space there. Sevu Reece goes up. Was that a knock-on from France before it went out of play? Biel Barry causing a bit of a problem there for Sevu Reece, but they'll be pleased that that's sort of slowed the All Black forward play.
Yeah, powerful carry from Caleb Clark out on the left wing. Moefana and Fickou had done really well to swim off in defence and buy themselves some time. But then when it came to the physical aspect, Caleb Clark bumped them both off. Very dangerous, very powerful runner on the left flank. Then the crossfield kick from Barrett. It was more of a guess, I think, or a feel that there might have been some space, because there really wasn't. Both players missed it. Bounced off Biel Barry's head, went into touch.
Well, Tupou Vai is down having a little bit of treatment for New Zealand here, and this is all quite significant, because if there is one area that New Zealand currently have a weakness, it is just the amount of injuries they are picking up in their forwards at the moment, particularly the loose forwards and the second row. It is going to cause a bit of a problem. He's okay to carry on, but coming into this series, no Papali'i, Blackadder, Jacobson. Obviously, there's an injury this week to Sam Cane, who picked up an HIA, and he's going to complete his international rugby career. If he doesn't play next week, he's already played his final game. Of course, the All Blacks go to Italy off the back of this, as Roygaard just juggles with the ball in his hands as they try and go forward once again. Roygaard gathers. So France just over that halfway line. They've run out of space towards that far side. They've only got 6 metres left before they meet the touchline, and France know it's there. They're trying to push them towards it. Distribution comes through Roygaard. That's a really nice little bit of handling by the All Blacks. This time the forwards get involved through Tamati Williams of the Crusaders. Caleb Clark, who's already caused some big dents and holes, goes once again. That was quite high from France around the neck of Clark, but referee happy that he's okay, that they can continue. Still locked outside of the 22 for now. Roygaard with the distribution to Beauden Barrett. Jordan just over the gain line by a couple of inches. Now, this has been a position that the All Blacks have been in quite a long time in this fixture, and they tend to go side to side, but Sevu Reece is actually the one to straighten it to avoid them going from coast to coast. Barrett there just gets round a shoulder really nicely to get the extra yards. Roygaard not quite caught, and Satiti pops off the ball sideways. Still going, this time through the captain, Scott Barrett, plays it backwards, uses his body length. I tell you what, the All Blacks, this is a lot of phases, but they are going in the right direction. 10 metres left to go. Roygaard is scragged, no scrum half. He's down on the floor, spun it out towards the left-hand side. Still the phases work through. Out there is Caleb Clark. And Gabin Villiers says, I tell you what, we've defended enough. We're going to let the touchline do it for you. And France get their line-up.
Great balance of variety of runners from New Zealand there, using the backs. Rieko Ioane looking to pick and go through the middle of the breakdown. Sevu Reece tracking those, picking and going, looking to try and get fast athletic acceleration against retreating forwards. Will Jordan carrying the ball strong, giving their forwards a break, and then he can get back to Lacaille and Satiti and the power runners once they've had a little bit of a break. But in the end, France defend it brilliantly. Caleb Clark gets bundled into touch on France's defensive right-hand side by Gabin Villiers, knocks on in the process. But they're really having to make a lot of tackles, aren't they, France?
And we've talked a lot about the wingers in this fixture. I mean, you've got Biel Barry and Villiers for France going up against Rees and Caleb Clark for New Zealand. And as much as we talked a lot about them, this is a game that perhaps everyone was excited to see Damien Penaud and Marc Telea play. Both of them out injured, but still plenty going on, plenty of excitement as we actually see a few changes here going on for France. I can see Jean-Baptiste Crowe is making his way off. Rida Vardy is on. Also, Gregory Aldrit has come off the field. So Charles Olivant is on in his place as we now see France come away with the ball at the line-out. Surprised they've taken Aldrit off so early, unless it was for an injury, as the ball goes long. Right, it hasn't gone out of play on that far side. It's still France 17, New Zealand 17, 48 minutes on the clock here on 5 Live Sport as we bring you Autumn Nations Series rugby. Been a busy day of it as well as the ball comes away into New Zealand hands. They try and snipe round the corner, don't really get anywhere with it, so have to reset and go. Still New Zealand ball as they just try and make their bodies those extra inches longer to give a bit more time for the scrum half to get it away. We can see Roumat with his long levers trying to go in and steal it. Haven't seen quite so much jackling in this fixture so far. Not too much holding on of the ball as the ball comes away, this time through the middle of the park. Anton Leonard-Brown being dragged down to the field there by Gaël Fickou. He was on the bench last week. So much experience in the legs of Gaël Fickou. 3 World Cups now to his name. Still got a few more years to go. Only 30 years old. Not 13, that would be a bit crazy. Right then, hacked on ball then by the All Blacks. Ramos gathers. He's going to clear this one down the field. And once again, Ramos, he very rarely is looking for the edges of the field. He keeps it right in the middle of the plate. Forces all of the All Blacks to turn, and they're dragged down. And after all of that progress they made, they find themselves back on their halfway line.
Good turnover from France, though, isn't it? And then they take the pressure off. All Blacks happy to play phase after phase after phase at the moment.
Tiring to watch, but whatever France are doing right now, it is working. Rory Gard is looking up at our referee Amashi Kelly to say, come on, give me something, and Amashi Kelly is not interested whatsoever. France so far being clean at the ruck. Now I've said it, they'll probably give away a penalty, but it comes back down that New Zealand line as they try and bust through. Oh, it didn't go to the hands of Jordan. Ramos was there, he hacks on, the foot chases on. Here comes Biel Barry, he's still going, he needs the bounce of the ball, he gets it. What a try for France, made by Ramos, finished by Biel Barry, and they are in the lead for the first time since 6 minutes on the clock. It's France 22, New Zealand 17.
And New Zealand in every phase, whenever they get a dominant carry, they look to get their arms free and offload the ball, and that is spectacularly dangerous for any defence. But the bouncing ball, the ball that goes on the floor, he got his arms free, but he wasn't certain of the offload. Ramos pounced and kicked through. Leonard-Brown in retreat was never going to win the foot race. Biel Barry, absolute lightning, because the ball was rolling end over end. It popped up perfectly for the finish. Patient in defence. France made a bundle of tackles. New Zealand finally come up with the error, and it's going to cost them 7.
Anton Leonard-Brown has the look on his face of a man that knows he is not looking forward to the review on Monday morning. He knows. Right then, Thomas Ramos then with the conversion. He's not missed one tonight, and he's not going to start now. 4 from 4 with the boot. It is now France 24, New Zealand 17, and France in this second half have just tidied a lot up.
Yeah, they've always looked comfortable out of possession. It was just getting some possession themselves. In the first half, they couldn't get right with their set piece. They've turned that around and scored immediately from a set piece right at the start of this half. And now off the back of some fantastically patient defending and brilliant vision by Ramos and pace by Biel Barry, they've turned the scoreboard around to 24-17.
Okay, 52 minutes on the clock, and France have it back inside of their 22. And we haven't spoken so much tonight about the young man who's on the ball now, and that's Antoine Dupont. He sends a huge box kick up into play, and he sends it out of play. So that's a mistake from Antoine Dupont. That's something to talk about.
He's terrible. That's a rare bird indeed. Just rolled the ball in the ruck to the back foot, which took it across from outside the 22 to inside. He made the mistake and landed the ball just out. Bielbarré tried to bat it back in, but it hands the All Black an attacking set piece just inside the 22.
Okay, number 9.
Okay, big change here for New Zealand. Damien McKenzie is coming onto the field. Who is he coming on for, though? Beauden Barrett looks like he might be staying on. So Damien McKenzie, I think, might be going into fullback. I mean, either Barrett or McKenzie can play at fullback, so it doesn't matter.
I think Will Jordan's gone onto the wing. Sevu Reece is the man who's had the shepherd's crook. So McKenzie at fullback, Jordan onto the wing.
Well, it could be Sevu Reece there after he was tracking back alongside Anton Leonard-Brown as well. That's put the end on his test match in Paris this evening. Right, France 24, New Zealand 17. Dupont then gathers the ball. There were some lovely words actually said by the New Zealand coach, Scott Robertson, about Antoine Dupont this week when they were talking about how great he is. He said, look, I want to watch him. Everyone in rugby wants to watch him. And anyone who makes people fall in love with rugby is my kind of player. And I think there's a lot of people out there who've seen him that agree, but someone who wants to be that kind of player is Damien McKenzie, who managed to get his hands on the ball early. Rico Ioane now drives forward down the left-hand wing. This is looking a little bit more sprightly. Villiers nearly got in a lot of trouble there, but managed to stop himself. He's a lucky, lucky man who was flying offside. Managed to not interfere with the play as Caleb Clark now drives forward. This is looking strong from the All Blacks as France need to get out of the way a bit quicker. 10 metres left for New Zealand to travel, and there's a New Zealand player down. Oh, that was nearly glorious going through there by Tamati Williams until the ball just spilled forwards. Too slippery for him. Also onto the field now we can see is Cortez Ratama, and he is playing at scrum half. There's going to be a replay here. Let's listen in. Okay, it is going to be a New Zealand ball. They're not checking anything. It's just because the injured player is still down on the floor. It was a Frenchman offside.
Damien McKenzie making his presence felt already, up the tempo, got on the ball early, getting into first receiver. They can split him and Beauden Barrett either side of the breakdown.
Yeah, I think it's Rida Vardy we're just watching who got a bit of a knock there as well. There's a few players who we've seen take a few clatters in this game. And there looks like everyone's okay to carry on. So it's a New Zealand penalty right in front of the posts. And they're not going to kick it. They're not interested in going up in threes. I say that, then the tee gets run on.
And then to stage right. Tee carrier Damien McKenzie's taking over the kicking duties from Beauden Barrett. That's annoying, isn't it? Right in front of the post. Can't miss.
And it is straight through. So, right, New Zealand creep a little bit closer. They're not in the lead, though, but it's a 4-point game now. So it is New Zealand who get back up to 20. France are on 24. The stadium scoreboard hasn't quite changed it yet as they get ready to go once again. I mean, there's a question for you, Paul Grayson. When it comes to fly halves and fullbacks, often in the Northern Hemisphere, we have a lot of discussion, particularly around the likes of a Marcus Smith, about him playing at fly half and playing at fullback. Never seems to be too much of an issue in New Zealand where someone goes in. If you're good, you play.
Yeah, and I mean, we see it from a long, long way away, don't we? I mean, the amount of discussion about Mo'unga and Beauden Barrett over there would have been enough to fill newspapers from now till the end of time. Just about what we see as the finished product when they've made their minds up, and they're all exceptionally good players. So I don't think lately either Barrett or McKenzie have really nailed down the way that Robertson wants them to play, but they're starting to come to as a team and a unit. That makes it so much easier to play 10 or to be an auxiliary 10 playing fullback. We have got players in this country who can do it. George Furbank is a perfect example, does it every week for in Northampton Saints system, and has done a bit of it for England too.
You're not missing any rugby because there's a Mexican wave going around the Stade de France at the moment, which probably sums up a lot about what's going on the field right now. Chopping and change on. So Olivon is onto the field now as they just make sure they sort a few things out. I think it might be for an HIA at the moment, so they're just going to go and check that out. And France, from the restart, they sent it down to New Zealand, and New Zealand have pinged a couple of times now for the same thing. It happened in the Ireland game as well, where you have to be really careful that when the ball is coming down, you don't block the defenders coming in to contest for the ball. And they've given away an easy penalty. France have kicked for the corner, they got the line out, they've scored from here before, and they're now trying to drive towards the New Zealand line. It's going backwards though. The ball is in the hands then of Julien Marchand, who's now on at hooker. It's crabbing towards the right. It's certainly not going forwards. It needs to straighten this maul at the moment. Okay, penalty advantage then to France. They've got a chance at doing something. It's a free hit. The ball is stuck in there somewhere. Right, the warning there is against Cody Taylor. And this is a penalty right in front of the post. It would be so easy to kick this through. Ramos has it, and he does point up, and he goes, OK, let's do this.
Okay, they're 3 points back. It is a hot topic, isn't it? The escort runners, when a high ball goes up, it was becoming tedious when 4 and 5 players were creating a wall in front of a defensive catcher, therefore rendering competitive kicks almost impossible. Certainly changed it. We were told there was going to be a hail of knock-ons and loads of scrums and the game would lose its rhythm as an unintended consequence. I don't really think that's happened. It's certainly not happened in this game, but referees are very hot on anybody change it. It's just gone back to how it used to be. You change your line, you're in trouble.
I think a lot of people are warming to it, but it is changing the shape of what rugby looks like when it comes to the aerial ball and those contests that are going on. We saw England selecting Freddie Stewart for that game against South Africa, particularly for his aerial skills for that very reason, as Ramos just lines up this penalty kick, goes straight through the post. So New Zealand slightly more comfortable all over again. It's now France 27, New Zealand 20, 57 minutes on the clock.
Yeah, back to 7 points, immediate response, but I mean, Australia's aerial skills, Joseph Suaalii last week almost won the game by winning back restarts when given a clear run to showcase those things. It's not a detrimental thing for me as far as the game is concerned. It just puts an onus on having exceptional skills in the air.
Now use it.
The trumpets are playing around the Stade de France. We've had a Mexican wave, we've had La Marseillaise. They're bringing out the full box of tricks. They have a big light show that goes on before kickoff as well, and they like an evening kickoff in France as well. Of course, in the last Six Nations, France ended up finishing second. They'll have their sights on finishing back in top spot if they can. Been a few years now since they actually lifted the trophy. Of course, the big discussion point in the last Six Nations this year was that Antoine Dupont was not there. Of course, he went off on his sevens escapades to win that first gold medal of the Paris Games for the French. But now back playing for Toulouse and France's. There's a big penalty on the whistle there of our referee. It's a New Zealand penalty. They will clear. And Antoine Dupont, the man we're talking about, is extremely annoyed.
Calculating the kick with me? Yeah. You're going to penalise him. Do I just ask you? No. Don't calculate. Okay. Don't count.
Okay, no counting was what New Zealand have just been told off for.
Is that Tamatai Williams doing a Joe Marler?
I think
for the box kicks.
If anyone doesn't know when we say that, often the scrum halves are told they've got 5 seconds to use it, and the referees count in their head. But sometimes some players like to do the counting for the referees, and they get told off for doing it.
Naughty boys.
Yes, don't count. Referees don't want to know you can count to 5. Right then, okay. It is a New Zealand line-out ball. There's changes going on. Mafana is coming out of the centres then for France. Coming on in his place is Emile Gaetan. He wore 13 last week, so Fiku can play 12 as well, so we'll keep an eye on where they actually line up. As it comes away for New Zealand, pass out wide then, comes from McKenzie. He manages to get it back to Jordan, who pops the ball back up. Caleb Clark manages to gather it to keep this attack alive then for New Zealand, who trailed by 7 then in Paris. Ball comes back to Ratima. Down on the ground goes the ball through Lomax, who's still on the field. Nearly up to 60 minutes then from the tight head for New Zealand. Big men pushing forward, 7 metres left to travel. It's the replacement who came on early through Peter Lakai who goes on now. Spun outboard towards the left-hand side. McKenzie, who's continuing to stand in that first receiver position, is being the general, but it's loose on the floor. France have it. After all of that excitement that New Zealand thought they were nearly home and hosed, Antoine Dupont is slowing it down, and Scott Barrett is there appealing to the referee, but it's Dupont who clears the ball towards the far side.
Well, so close to going out into touch from Dupont, only a foot or so inside the right-hand touchline as New Zealand return to their attack through Mackenzie.
And it's still a New Zealand ball. They'll be wondering what just happened. It is Lakai now who goes forward and is back on the 22. France 27, New Zealand 20 here on 5 Live Sport. We watched England lose a little bit earlier at Twickenham, 29 points to 20. France, though, they are in a strong position here, but they need to keep their discipline as they get pinged for offside, and it's a kickable position here for New Zealand. Down on his knees at the moment. Is that Tyrrell Lomax that's down at the moment? He looks absolutely exhausted.
He's going well, that New Zealand tight head. He is a big man. 61 minutes of graft, and I dread to think how many rooks he's been involved in clearing out, as well as the other duties in scrum and line out and defence. It's a brilliant turnover from France to avoid conceding. Yeah, Olivon, he's a master at that. Such a tall player as well.
As the conversion for the penalty comes in then by Damien McKenzie. It's now France 27, New Zealand 23 as we go and check in on the cricket. West Indies against England in the 4th T20. Kevin House.
20 overs are up and England well placed to go 4 up in this series. 218 for 5 is a big total. Phil Salt with a 55, Joss Butler a 38, and 21-year-old Jacob Bethel a 62 off 32 balls, 5 sixes, 3 in a row off Frost and Chase. 219 for the West Indies to win.
Thanks, Kevin. Right then, France 27, New Zealand 23, 62 minutes on the clock this evening here on 5 Live Sport. And of course on BBC Sounds, take us in your pocket wherever you go or keep us on in the car. We're not fussy, we're just happy to have your company. As New Zealand through the feet at the moment of Cortez Ratimer, the chief scrum half, who is now having this wonderful battle, but that's a big mistake on the floor there by New Zealand.
I think the referee called 2 seconds to go. Ratimer didn't get the ball away. Referee blew his whistle. It's just a straight turnover.
Do you think that's after he told them off for counting, that he can prove he can count himself?
I mean, yeah, Ratimer still made a mess of it actually, but the referee's whistle had already gone. But I like it. It's speeding up the game, puts people under pressure to deliver their skills. We saw a few charge downs in the England game. Jack Van Poortvliet feeling the pressure again. It's a return to how things used to be. There was never the 9-man long ruck in the old days. There was a lot more pressure on 9s to kick the ball, so that part of the jigsaw in terms of, you take away some of the competition, but also you make it harder to do.
There's plenty going on in rugby right now to try and make sure that the game is sped up exactly as Paul Grayson has just said. So you've got the shot clock for the conversions. It used to be 90, it's now come down to 60. There's an unofficial clock that the referees and the umpiring team are all aware of, which is 30 seconds when it comes to scrums and lineouts that have to be formed. There's the scrum halves getting it away as Antoine Dupont does just that with this unofficial 5 seconds that the referees count in their head. As the high ball is put up, Villiers takes it on the far side for France, who are inside of that New Zealand 22. Ball is down on the ground. Dupont goes in to gather. Driving forward now is Olivon, who really has the bit between his teeth and is making his presence felt on the field. A former French captain himself. There's a few of them out there on the field. As the ball is spun out wide, but stolen by Will Jordan, who picked that one off, and he sent it back down the field. The foot chase is on. Ramos is going back to gather, back inside of the French 22. He's wondering how he's ended up back here. Biel Barry then with the fresh leg pushes out towards the near side. It looked a little bit forward, that, and I think the referee is going to come back for it. That is a real sickener. I mean, it was quite obvious, and I think the touch judge called it in. It's one of those ones that isn't bothering anyone, but it was so big.
Yeah, and they'd worked so hard to get back down. They'd almost butchered a set play move from the scrum, France. Then the intercept on the outside from Will Jordan, the theme of the game, set it off down the pitch, and fair play to Ramos. Showed good speed and great fitness to get back there first, and he was happy to go with his teammate. Biel Barry got back to counter-attack. Once they'd set off, he wasn't going to change his mind. just floated his pass forward, which is a shame.
Okay, we've got another man about to come onto the field. We can see warming up at the moment is Nolan Lagarec. He'll come on at scrum half. So will Dupont come off? We're just waiting for him to officially come onto the field. Not yet, says the fourth official. So he stands and waits as Jocelyn de Clercq goes round the crowd. Right then.
Crouch!
Wait for Cortez Ratima to get this one in. It's a really nice platform for New Zealand if they can do something here. They trail by 4 at the moment on 65 minutes. France 27, New Zealand 23. Inside the Stade de France as the scrum goes down to ground, but Ratima has it, gives it to Leonard Brown, 10 metres short of the French try line. New Zealand so far are unbeaten in this Autumn Nations series. This is the first time they've really been tested to this kind of extent. Of course, there was that tense moment at Twickenham when England could have won it but didn't quite manage to, as they try and push round the edge on the far side. Over the top there was that from France. No, they're going to come back for another penalty advantage. It's still going to be a New Zealand ball. New Zealand thought about going quickly there, not to be, as the referee jogs back over.
Great work in the wide breakdown from Gabin Villiers. First made a good tackle on Caleb Clark close to the touchline, and then managed to get his hands on the ball. It's a penalty off the back of for France, off the back of a penalty to New Zealand.
Shot called.
Right in front of the post for not rolling away after New Zealand's first phase attack.
No, he clearly has to roll away. He has to roll away.
Okay, you can hear that from a referee saying you've clearly got to roll away from the ruck. That was the problem. Damien McKenzie has called for the tee to come back on. This isn't going to put them in a winning position, but it's going to make it a 1-point ball game if he can slot this one. He hasn't missed one so far since he's been onto the field in this second half, and that trend will continue as he smashes that one through. Okay, game on. France 27, New Zealand 26. We have 13 minutes left to play, and all of a sudden it's gone a little bit quiet around the stadium.
It's tight, isn't it? I can't believe 67 minutes has gone. There's been so much going on the field. It's just flown by.
They just shot up on the big screen a big picture of Romain Taufifenua, who came on briefly and went off. So clearly he's failed an HIA. So the bench has had a huge say in all of this, as we see Romain Barros make his way off the field, meaning Nolan Lagarec is on, and I think Dupont is staying on as well. So this is going to be a tense finish. We'll just check that as the ball comes back then for New Zealand towards this near side. They do clear their lines, but that's not the biggest of kicks. It's given France a nice line-out position just outside of the New Zealand 22.
They've been pretty good with their restarts, France, getting runners to make tackles and put pressure on. Then they had, I think it was Lagarec, went and put pressure on Beauden Barrett with his clearing kick. Probably shaved 10 metres or so off it by getting a good angle at Barrett.
Okay, goes high into the air, taken eventually there by Flamand. We can see that Dupont is now stood at first receiver, so I can assume that Ramos has gone towards the full-back position, the way that they've rearranged themselves, with Burros going off, but penalty given away by the French on the floor. And it's all pats on the back for the New Zealand players who get a chance to clear from inside their own half.
Yeah, they missed their clear there. The French, it was a good battle in the line out to win the ball in the first place. Looks like Laguerec's into 9, Dupont into 10, and Ramos to full-back. But straight from the set play, they knocked it up the middle, didn't hit their clear. And Wallace Satiti, the Kiwi number 8, got his hands on the ball. He's a tough man to shift.
Right then, New Zealand, they just mess up the ball through Cortez Ratima. He'll be so annoyed. His teammates go in and try and support him, but he knows that he fluffed his lines there, couldn't quite take the ball as it came down from the line out. France have the scrum inside their own half. I think someone just needs to keep to the script, don't they?
They'd won the ball right at the back, just over the 15.
Just a small fix from
Just casual delivery. Surveyor, I think it was. It was a brilliant throw. He just chucked it at the number 9's feet with replacement number 9, I beg your pardon. Knocked it on. The pace has just come out of the game, hasn't it, with 1 or 2 mistakes.
Well, I'll tell you what is quite nice about this fixture between France and New Zealand is they actually play for the Dave Gallagher Trophy. And Dave Gallagher was a captain of the original All Blacks when they played their first ever test against France back in 1906. He then sadly later went on to die in World War I. And of course, with it being Armistice Day earlier this week, the All Blacks have spoken a lot about the inspiration of Dave Gallagher and the build-up to this fixture. And they've got their poppies, of course, on the sleeves of their shirts tonight. A really lovely story that they are taking so much from that and from what this trophy represents, but they are the ones who are 1 point down at the moment at the Stade de France as we follow this fixture here on 5 Live Sport. France 27, New Zealand 26 as we close in on the final 10 minutes. So much rugby has been played today across this Autumn Nations series. A win for Scotland over Portugal, arguably highly expected. And then, of course, England going down for a 3rd match in a row in this Autumn Nations series as they lost to the 2-time world champions South Africa. They've got one more chance in this autumn period to try and get a win. That'll be, of course, when Eddie Jones' Japan rolled into town next week, and we're already looking forward to the press conferences and the headlines already. They will not be made by Steve Borthwick, I can tell you that for free, but we all hope deep down that maybe Eddie throws in a couple. Just a couple. Right then, France ball. They're inside of their own half, so they've got to find a way to get themselves out. Lagaret goes in, tries to dig out the ball. The Racing man puts a high ball up. Remember, they've got to be careful of the escorting because New Zealand have been pinged for that a couple of times. Comes down eventually for Jordan, he gives it to Mackenzie, and then Latimer tries to clear away. Barrett, who stood in first receiver, sends off the players. Now there's a big blast on the whistle here. We're going to come back. Oh, croc roll. We haven't had one of those so far in the fixture. And as Scott Barrett, the New Zealand captain, hears it, he just grimaces and puts his hands on his knees, such as the annoyance and frustration, because this is within penalty range.
Yeah, it is. We haven't.
17.
Neck roll. Nothing gets missed these days, does it? There's always stuff being looked at in the background. The TMO, we don't always hear it.
Because the game was...
Well, it's Ufa Tungafasi who's given away that. They're not replaying the incident at the moment. Tungafasi not been too long on the field as they just watch it back now, and they're being really hot on this at the moment. And of course there's a difference between a neck roll and a croc roll. They're different kind of penalties. But as it's a neck roll, it's just a penalty.
Yeah, because he didn't fall down the side of the breakdown and onto anybody's leg, which would have turned it into a croc roll. That's a horrible act in the game. So dangerous. Glad that it's outlawed.
Good scrum.
Okay, so France have decided to kick for goal. They're leading at the moment by 1 point at the Stade de France. If they get this, they make it 4 points, so they're not going to be out of any kind of danger. And New Zealand, well, they can pull a rabbit out of the hat if they want to. They've really grown throughout this Autumn Nations series, but at the moment they're going to have to do something here in these final 8 minutes or so to try and put themselves back in a winning position as Ramos lines this one up with his right boot and sends that through. He's kicked so well this evening. It's now France 30, New Zealand 26, so 4 points as we close in. New Zealand know that penalties are not going to do the job at the moment. They need a try.
Yeah, another good kick from Ramos. All his penalties at shots at goal have come from the left-hand side of the field. He's pretty comfortable with that soft draw.
Okay, New Zealand go over the top of that. Surveyor went in to try and get the ball. He's so annoyed. He thought he had it. And they're all looking at the referee. No one's actually playing the ball that's on the floor and is available. But it's a penalty eventually to New Zealand.
We got a dangerous clean out by Blue.
Okay, dangerous clean out by one of the French players. So it wasn't what Surveyor was doing. It was the France players flying in over the top at the end. This is within penalty range. And Scott Barrett has pointed towards the post. Now the time, this is significant. We're closing in on 74 minutes, so New Zealand back themselves here to score this penalty and then go and get some more afterwards.
Yeah, I didn't pick up the dangerous clear out from the referee. To be honest with you, I thought New Zealand had won the ball in the breakdown anyway. The ref didn't give a penalty. Then there was some to-in and throwing. He eventually found an infringement. One appeared in front of him.
Well, you can tell the crowd don't like it, can't you? Whoa, they are going for it. They have no interest in this refereeing decision whatsoever. If Damien McKenzie wanted quiet, he's come to the wrong place. Here he goes. Penalty for New Zealand to make it a 1-point game again. He slots that. And here we go. France 30, New Zealand 29 as we head into the final 5 minutes at the Stade de France, and we'll just go and quickly check in on West Indies against England in that fourth T20. Kevin House.
Well, England, of course, got a big total to defend here, and we've just seen a very good first over really from John Turner. Only went for 5 runs, of course, his ODI international T20 debut, should I say. Lewis and Hope are the opening pair here for the West Indies. They're 5 for no wicket and need 219 to avoid going 4 down in the series.
Thanks, Kevin. Right then, we're coming into the closing stages of what's been a pretty impressive test match between France and New Zealand. It has been scrappy at times, but both of them have also played some pretty delightful rugby. Mistakes have crept in this final 20 minutes or so, and it's just who is going to see this out, as one of the sound operators on the near side of the field gets an absolute ball straight bang on the head. I mean, he's brushed it off quite nicely, but that is going to smart.
He's styled it out there.
Oh.
Clearing kick on the left foot of Ratimer, New Zealand's replacement scrum half. Decent kick, but again from a restart, New Zealand happy to let France have a set piece.
Well, Marchand gets the ball into the line out, finds his man. New Zealand didn't even put someone up to try and contest it, as they just wanted to make sure that this maul didn't move too fast. It's at the back. Lagarec has it, finds Fiku. On the little loop through goes Dupont, who pushes it through. McKenzie having to go back for New Zealand inside his 22. No one's tackling, they're just watching him. Ramos eventually then decides to wrap him up and put him down. But New Zealand now inside of their own 22 have to find a way to exit. 76 minutes on the clock. France 30, New Zealand 29. This is going to be wonderfully tense as we close this one out with Ratimer. It's going to come through a box kick to try and get it away. Goes down the far side of the field, not going to go out of play. It's going to find Dupont. And the crowd like that as he puts a high one up. It's going to have to be contested as French players try and put themselves on the side. Satiti can't take it. It's a loose ball on the floor. Was that blocking by Ardie Savea? Referee says no, play on New Zealand. They have it, but they're still stuck inside of their own half. They need to find points, New Zealand. They need to find them quickly. The French players appeal that they should have had the ball at the ruck. Referee says play on. Leonard Brown goes through the middle, places it backwards. Waiting there is Savea once again. Got such a low body position as he just rolls through the tackles. 1 point game. France 30, New Zealand 29. They fly forwards once again. This time Asafra Amua, the Hurricanes hooker, has it, and here we go. It's passed off ball to Will Jordan. He's got numbers on the outside, but read beautifully by Gavin Villiers, who saves France just, but the counter ruck from the All Blacks is stunning. They get the ball back. That should be put in a training manual of how to ruck when you've lost the ball, and then they knock it on. It goes from sublime to mistake, and Biel Barry will hack on the ball. Here we go. Who's still got some energy to chase it back? Savea somehow there. Biel Barry can't get there. McKenzie falls on the ball. He's 3 meters from his own line. Biel Barry has to stay on his feet or he'll give away the penalty, and he has. He was warned by the referee again and again. Another French player came over the top. It's a New Zealand penalty, but they are right back by their own line, and we still have 2 minutes to play.
Ardie Savea did so well there for New Zealand. Once they'd knocked the ball on, Dupont had kicked ahead. I felt for all money the 2 Frenchmen were going to win the foot race. New Zealand's open side flanker absolutely empty in the tank to get back there and fall on the ball. Biel Barry and Dupont getting carried away trying to effect the turnover. Rieko Ioane just tried to straighten up, step off the pass. I beg your pardon, it was the French left winger who kicked ahead. Dupont went with him on the chase. Savea did enough. And then Damien McKenzie got back, breathless.
Okay, 1.5 minutes to play. France 30, New Zealand 29 here on 5 Live Sport as the ball goes into the air. It's New Zealand's ball as they try and push it towards their own 22-metre line, but there are tackles being rained down on them. France need to not give away any penalties as they can hold on to this 1 point advantage as they close in the final whistle. It's been lost forward there by Damien McKenzie. There's still a minute to play. It is knock-on advantage then to France. Dupont is just winding down the clock, and he's doing it so well. It comes down the back line. Ramos with the crossfield kick. Could this be a grandstand finish for Biel Barry, who can't gather the ball? It bobbles out of to play. The advantage is over, so we will have one last play. It's a New Zealand line-out, and they've got to ship it right down the other end of the field.
Oh, if the ball had bounced to Biel Barry there, he was strolling in, brave to play on with the advantage. They could have just stopped. Galtier going absolutely berserk in the coaching box. 20 seconds left.
Okay, New Zealand are about to lose their first Autumn Nations Series match unless they can pull the biggest of rabbits out the biggest of hats. Right then, the ball is loose. It is in the hands then of Amua. The hooker has managed to regather from the line out. 1 point game, France 30, New Zealand 29, the clock in the red. France just need to get the ball back somehow. New Zealand are camped virtually on their own line. They've got so far to go. Surely this is an impossible task for them as they trail by 1 point inside the Stade de France. Will the French get their third winner in a row against the All Blacks? What huge tackles are raining down. They can't kick the ball off the field. They can't hack it down as a huge tackle comes in by Gaël Fickou. New Zealand are nearly pushed back inside their own 22, but the bust comes from Barrett, who pushes it back in the end to Caleb Clark. Clark goes down. How many phases will we see? A 1 point game. France 30, New Zealand 29. We've nearly a minute now into the red. New Zealand are holding the ball, but how long can they do this for? They're pushing towards the edges of the field. Damien McKenzie goes once again. Dare a France player go in and contest? They need to keep their discipline. There's no chance of them kicking a penalty from where they are, New Zealand, but they could get further down the field. Are they holding up the player? The referee, has he said it's a tackle? Is it down on the ground? It goes the way of New Zealand. France will win, that is it. France 30, New Zealand 29. New Zealand lose for the first time on their travels in the Northern Hemisphere. And France have beaten the All Blacks for a third time in a row. What a test match.
Make no mistake how much that means to this French team and those French fans. Atmosphere incredible inside the stadium tonight. What a thrilling encounter. Both teams playing their part, but France fixing up their set piece at half-time. Got them a try immediately after the break and then capitalising on some magnificent defending and a multi-phase attack from New Zealand. They turn the ball over, kick ahead, win the race and score. Finest of fine margins. Superb test match.
Absolutely incredible. And one big statistic maybe to take away from it, Paul Grayson. If I told you that the starting pack, 757 caps for the All Blacks compared to 388 for France, that says an awful lot about where this French team are going.
Yeah, and Galtier's touched on it, hasn't he? It's kind of Project Australia, this, the beginning of their run to the next World Cup in 2027. They've got some fantastic players. Rugby in France is in rude health. You can see that on and off the field. And then Dupont quiet tonight, but the last player we see, the best player in the world.
Okay, it's all over at the Stade de France, and they're going to be celebrating in Paris deep into the night because France have won this 30 points to 29 against the All Blacks. Wonderful test match. Right then.